Welcome to this week's story. I'm your host Manasvi, and let me tell you, you are in for a ride today because the movie we're talking about today is one of my all-time favorites. And I want to go even as far as saying it's a movie that's beloved all throughout India. It's called Drushyam, and I believe the origin is Malayalam, and it's been remade in almost every major language in India. Since I speak Telugu and the translation will be easier, I'll be recapping that version, but I do think the story stays the same throughout the different adaptations. And it's really just the acting that differs. I thought that the acting in the Telugu version was honestly the actor's best performance in recent times, and I'll rave a bit more about the story at the end, so let me drop you right into it. It all starts on a bus. The bus is weaving its way through the countryside, and at the front of the bus sits a middle-aged man. He's a policeman who's recently been transferred to a police station in this little village called Rajavanam. Coincidentally, though, the village just recently finished constructing this brand new police station. So the man gets off the bus, and like the dutiful policeman he is, he heads straight for the station. His boss hasn't arrived, and he goes to the seating area to wait for him, but there's already someone there. A man. The police officer stops short when his eyes land on this person. He knows him. That's Ram. He's the reason every single police officer in Rajavaram got transferred. And at this point, you're left wondering, what the heck happened for every officer to get transferred? Like, it's either got to be some really nasty behavior on the police side or a cold case. So what exactly happened here? Well, we're going to bring it back a couple of months. Ram is a very unique person, to say the least. He's this 6-foot-tall man with slicked back hair, and he runs the village's cable TV business. So he's really the one supplying everyone with the ability to watch broadcast channels, reruns of movies, the news, and all that. And ironically, he is an avid movie fan. In fact, he's such a big fan that he can't go 2 seconds before referencing a movie or someone related to the movie industry. For example, today he goes into this little restaurant that's right below his shop, where we find out that an older farmer couple is having some trouble paying off their loans because there was no rain this season and their crops just didn't grow. And because of the crops not growing, they missed like 2 payments, so the person who gave them the loan, who also happens to be like a crooked cop named Veerabhadram, took away their son instead, and he's ordered them to pay back both the interest and the principal all at once, if they want their son back. When Ram hears about this at the restaurant, he closes his eyes and he thinks back to this movie scene that he watched where the main character is arguing in court about permitting habeas corpus. Just a quick side note, I've heard habeas corpus many times, but I can never actually remember what it means. So for all of you who are in the same boat as me, habeas corpus is like a judicial order that forces law enforcement authorities to produce a prisoner that they're holding, and then they make them justify that the prisoner is being kept there for valid reasons. So Ram recalls the scene, his eyes shoot open, and he knows exactly how to help the couple. Let's do one thing. There's a very famous lawyer in Vizag named Vishwanath. His assistant is from our village, so I'll meet up with him and get habeas corpus approved like they did in the film Ankuram and get your son freed. And honestly, it's not a bad idea. If Ram can get the court to issue habeas corpus, then it doesn't really matter how crooked of a cop Veerabhadram is. He'll have to release the son because, I mean, what kind of justification would he come up with? Oh, I took this boy as collateral for these 2 people not paying off their loans? Like, he can't say that. Nobody's going to accept that. So as long as the lawyer isn't corrupt, then everything should work out the same way it did in the movie. But while he's explaining all of this to the couple at the restaurant, the owner of the restaurant points out that Veerabhadram is headed towards the restaurant. The older couple rush outside believing that Ram can help save them, while Ram takes a seat and picks up a magazine just as Veerabhadram enters. From the brief interaction he has with the restaurant owner and Ram, you can tell that Veerabhadram is as crooked as they get. He puts everything he eats on a tab and then comes up with Ponzi schemes to get out of paying. For example, he's racked up like 4,500 rupees, which is like $50 in debt from this restaurant. But when the owner goes to ask him to pay, Veerabhadram goes, "A new police station has been sanctioned in our village. It'll be built right over there, right opposite your restaurant. Once that work is done, I'll just tell all the workers to eat at your restaurant." Ram, who's reading his magazine, can't help but let out a chuckle. Veerabhadram looks at him with like lasers shooting out of his eyes. "Why are you laughing? This is the only restaurant in the village. Even if you didn't tell them to eat here, they'll have to. I'll just tell them not to eat here." You think that just because you said that, they'd hop on the bus to head over to the village that's next to ours and then eat there? And now Veerabhadram is pissed. He turns to the owner. If I get mad, then I'll build a hotel right next to this one overnight. If you listen to Ram's words and mess with the police, then your business and your life will be ruined like this. He picks up the tea glass that was given to him and he throws it onto the floor. Ram stands up and so does Veerabhadram. It looks like they're going to exchange fists, but before that can happen, another police officer enters the restaurant. He's a much more amicable police officer, it seems, because he sits down with the biggest smile on his face and listens as Ram tells him all about Veerabhadram's scheme. Veerabhadram shoots him a menacing look, but that's really about all he can do now that his boss is in the restaurant. So all in all, Veerabhadram is a terrible person who has a lot of beef with Ram. Later that night, Ram is once again engaging in his favorite pastime of watching movies. This one seems to be a sad one because he's shedding some tears, but his moment of sentiment gets interrupted by one of his employees. I think actually his only employee, Simhadri. I made an advertisement for the wedding dessert shop. Come and take a look. Hey, wait. Oh my god, it's this tragic movie song again. You can watch this tomorrow as well. Just come and see what I made, please. Ram wipes his eyes before begrudgingly following Simhadri. He takes one look at the advertisement. I think the phone number should be mentioned in a larger font. But there's a voiceover as well. People will hear it anyway. People remember what they see more than what they hear. On top of that, for the elderly customers, the number has to be larger so that they can actually see it. So you can tell that Ram has a good read on the people in the village. He knows what their needs are, he knows how to handle them, and how to effectively advertise to them. Ram and Simhadri's conversation gets interrupted by a phone call. Simhadri stands there not wanting to pick up because it's probably a phone to file a complaint about the service, but Ram slaps him on the shoulder. What kind of words are those? Go pick it up. But we only get complaint calls, don't we? My wife may call. Even she calls only to complain. After making that jab, he rushes over to pick up the phone, but Ram tells him one more thing before he picks up. If anyone asks for me, tell them that I'm not here. Simhadri picks up the phone, and it turns out that the phone call was actually a request for some dude named Mr. Sharma. There's an adult program that's airing that night, and he just called to make sure that Ram doesn't cut the connection to his cable at that time. Ram shakes his head at the request as Simhadri walks away, and then he looks at the phone. It's like one of those typical landline phones, so he picks up the phone and puts it next to the receiver so that no more calls can come in for the night. The next morning, at the crack of dawn, he hops on his motorcycle and heads home. The home is absolutely beautiful. It's at the end of the village, surrounded by green fields. There's a long winding driveway that leads up to a really cozy looking home. He quietly opens the front door, looks around, and then opens a door to a room. Inside, his younger daughter, Anu, is sleeping like the dead, and his older daughter, Anju, is sitting at her desk with a textbook open. From Anju, he finds out that his wife, Jyoti, is in the kitchen getting breakfast ready. He walks in for quite literally no other reason than to ask his wife if she made sure the water was warm for him to shower, and of course, to ask her to join him. She shoves him aside once, but then he comes back asking if she'll join in the evening for his evening shower. They're actually a really cute couple. And also, just in case anyone is confused as to why Rambabu needs to ask Jyoti if she warmed up his water, in India and I think a lot of the Eastern world, there's no warm water that just comes out when you turn a dial. Instead, you usually have to turn on a switch that will then turn on the water heater and fill your water tank with warm water. And then most people turn it off after taking the shower because it's a waste to keep heating up the water when you're not really going to use it. So don't worry, she's not physically boiling water for him. She's literally just flipping a switch. Rambabu finishes up the shower and comes down for breakfast as Jyoti is serving Anju her breakfast. The only person missing is the youngest daughter, Anu, and Anu is a total daddy's girl because she comes out in her cute little pigtails, goes straight to her dad, and kisses him on the cheek. Seeing this behavior, Anju can't help herself. Mom, look at how she's buttering up Dad. I wouldn't call this buttering up her dad. I call this expressing her love for her father. You don't show your affection, but you have to complain when someone else is doing it. Anyway, was it raining near the cable office yesterday? No, why? I called many times last night. Your phone gets disconnected even if it's just a little bit of rain, right? Of course, he's not going to tell her that he purposefully made it so that no one can call him last night, so he just smiles while Anju suggests that he get a mobile phone. But to that, Rambabu reminds her of the state of the network in the village. It's literally more unstable than a spaghetti tower that can barely hold a marshmallow on top. But Jyoti can't help but take a dig. Right, because you would have bought one even if the network was stable. He shoots her a quick look while Anju and Anu laugh, and then Jyoti changes the topic right back to last night. By the way, you didn't ask me why I called last night. What else would it be? You probably wanted me to buy some groceries on the way home. There's your sarcasm again. You don't even spend time with us. You just sit in your office 24/7 and watch movies. Do you even remember that you have a wife and 2 kids at home who are waiting? You don't care about us at all. At that dialogue, Rambabu starts pleading with his wife, and it's actually done in a very cute way. You can judge for yourselves when you watch the movie, but I feel like the two of them have a fairly healthy relationship. Like, Rambabu truly cares for Jyoti even though he can't spend as much time as he wants with them. And Jyoti really cares for him even though she's pissed off half the time by the things he says or does. And the 2 kids are used to seeing their parents have these petty fights and then immediately openly display affection for each other 2 seconds later. Anyway, after a little bit of groveling, Jyoti reveals that she called because her and the kids need to go to the city in order to do some shopping. At that, Rambabu's mouth falls open. Shopping? You guys just bought clothes last year. Are they over already? No, I even have the clothes from the year we got married, but they're all tattered now, so it won't look good to wear them. You see, that's why I told you back then that we should buy some clothes that fit a little bit looser, that are oversized, but you didn't listen. Yeah, and I also told you that we should buy clothes from a good quality store so that they can last us a while, but you didn't listen. You took us to some trash store just because they had a buy one, get one free offer. Rambabu relents, saying that they can go buy clothes from this little clothing store that they have in the village. But Jyoti refuses. She has a dream of going to the city, eating some biryani in a mall that has AC, and spending the day shopping. Anu, the youngest daughter, adds that she wants ice cream. Rambabu shoots Anu a look. Do you all have to spend so much? Why are you so upset? You're a man who's never at home, so how can you understand the needs of the women who stay at home? We have desires too. Jyoti, I'm not roaming the streets for fun. It's because it's my job that I'm outside. And as we agreed, your job is to stay at home and take care of the house and kids. You shouldn't bear it as a burden. You need to bear it as a responsibility. You should learn from Namrata. Who is this Namrata? Namrata Shirodkar, Mahesh Babu's wife. She got married at the peak of her career as a film actress. Even though she was crowned Miss India once upon a time, she left it all behind for her kids. You should learn from her. Jyoti shakes her head. Do you know what Namrata's husband Mahesh Babu does? He earns millions and millions of dollars. He provides his wife with a car driver and maids. He gives her all the luxuries in the world. Not only that, he takes his family on shopping trips abroad every now and then. And did you know they even went to America on a flight? The kids have a good laugh at their parents' expense while Rambabu teases Jyoti. Well, how else would they get to America if not on a flight? Do you think they'd go there on a motorcycle? Everyone laughs and then Anu pipes up. Dad, when will we get to go on a flight? Her question is so innocent, but Rambabu's and Jyoti's smiles drop as they look at each other. You can tell that they're not in a good spot financially where they can afford to buy plane tickets for all of them. Rambabu looks at Anu. It's probably better if we just end this topic here. Go to school now and then I'll take you shopping later. I'll take you to the city for shopping. So eat, or else even the food will be wasted. After breakfast, Rambabu gets to work digging a hole the size of a body in their backyard. Don't worry, he's not trying to bury anyone. It's for composting. And Jyoti is confused as to why he's not calling a few workers. They'd take care of it without needing to expend all of this effort. Another side note, so maids and workers in India are a lot more affordable than they are here in America. It's normal for the average middle-class household to have a maid that will at the very least clean for them, and sometimes some will have maids that will cook and clean for them. And in villages, you'll find laborers who'll do all sorts of stuff for you at a reasonable rate. Rambabu refuses to hire these workers though because these days the rates are rising and they're asking for a lot more money for the same amount of work. So then comes Jyoti's next question. Why didn't he just use fertilizer instead of using compost? Well, the answer is rather simple to him. Fertilizer contains chemicals. Composting is a safer option, and Jyoti is impressed. It looks like he's been watching some agricultural programs on top of movies. They get into another petty argument, and we learn that Ram is a self-made man. He's actually only completed the 4th grade before he had to discontinue his education, and after years and years of hard work, he finally managed to buy this piece of land that his home is on today. And I think it's because of this self-made nature that so many people in the town, his wife included, have a lot of respect for him. Later that morning, as he's making his way to work, he sees practically the entire village gathered around the piece of land that will eventually become the new police station. He stops when he sees his employee, Simhadri, loitering around over there. Simhadri was trying to be a diligent little employee, and he was looking for places to put the lines for the TVs that would eventually end up in the police station. But the man was doing too much because the police station won't even start building or be built for another 8 months. So Ram slaps him on the shoulder and tells him to hop on his Vespa. Later that night, Ram is back in the restaurant that's right beneath his business, watching yet another movie when the contractor, so the person who's supposed to be building the police station, walks in. The restaurant owner introduces him to Ram, and the two hit it off rather quickly. We learn that Ram actually stays overnight at his cable shop most of the time because the cable connection is just so flaky in this village. It's not the best, and if the cable gets cut off in the middle of the night, then the customers aren't going to be happy, so they won't pay tomorrow, and then he'll be sad because he's losing business. The two bond over good work ethic while Ram heads back upstairs and he starts watching TV. But what's playing on the TV at the moment, if you remember the detail from before, is an adult film. So he's sitting there getting all hot and bothered while Simhadri, his assistant, is working on the computer. But there's only so much he can take, as a hot-blooded male, and he dips to go home. He knocks on the door and Jyoti opens. The two flirt for a little bit because she knows exactly why he came home tonight. Before they both get onto the bed, Jyoti, being the smart and cunning woman that she is, uses this chance to ask if they can sell their old Jeep and buy a new car. At that, Ram's mood deflates. He rejects the idea before turning around and sleeping because he says that he can control himself. Time passes for first at 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, and then 15. The two of them are just laying in their bed with their backs facing each other, neither one of them willing to break the silence until Ram finally cracks. The next morning, as usual, at breakfast, the entire family has their bickering session, and then Anju brings up the nature camp. The nature camp is this thing that the state government is running to educate farmers not to sell their fertile lands for commercial property. Anju is really proud of this nature camp because, first of all, only 50 people in the entire state were selected to attend, and on top of that, she is one of the 2 people who were picked from her school to go to this. She really wants to go, but her mom isn't giving her permission, so Anju has shifted to trying to get her dad on board instead. Ram is completely on board. He pulls out a movie scene when Jyoti tries to stop him, and his performance gains applause from both his daughters. So, with no ammunition left, Jyoti tells her husband, "Okay, then pay the 2,000 rupees so she can go." Ram's expression falls at the price, but he's already made a promise to his daughters, so she is holding him accountable for it. The kids rush off to school while Ram sits there thinking about the 2,000 rupees. But honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem like a whole lot to him, because for the next few months, he and his family spend it in complete bliss every single day. There's a new petty little fight that they can all laugh over. He took them to the mall in the city, got everybody ice cream, made sure they watched a movie in the theater, laughed at his wife while she tried to walk in heels and ended up on her butt. It's the type of family life that I think all of us crave. It's not overly fake with no fights at all. It's not overly polite. It's just a very close-knit middle-class family. He actually even sent Anju to the nature camp, and she had a lot of fun. Except there was this man who honestly, I don't get why people are like this. Why do they exist like this? But he was basically going around taking videos of all the ladies and harassing them. But Anju shielded her face, kept her distance, had fun with her friends, completed the nature camp, and came home. When she comes back, the entire family goes to Jyoti's mother's house, where Anju is gifted a gold necklace. Ram doesn't really want to accept, but his in-laws really love him, and they think really highly of him because of one thing. When he married Jyoti, he didn't take any dowry. Personally, I don't think anybody should ever be taking any dowry, but it's still something that exists in Indian marriages to this day. Anyway, Jyoti's parents are eternally grateful that he's never made a fuss about the dowry, but Ram thinks that he's the real winner because they allowed Jyoti to marry him even though he was an orphan. And I just want to explain this for a second. So in Indian marriages, most of the time, you look at both sides of the family before fixing a marriage alliance. So as a result, it's a lot harder for orphans to get married. I'm not saying that it's right to do this, but I think the sentiment behind it comes from the fact that if you grew up without a family, the question becomes, well, how do you know anything about family values? And if you don't know anything about family values, how are you going to take care of my daughter in the future? I don't agree with it, but that is a sentiment that exists. So Rob is eternally grateful that they didn't make a fuss about the fact that he was an orphan. The evening continues on joyfully, and eventually even Jyoti's younger brother Rajesh joins in on the fun. Rajesh is an activist. He's really passionate about the environment, and he recently even got like a stone grinding factory closed for good because it was polluting the water in the village that I believe it's called Devarpalli. And to celebrate, he even brought home fish straight from the lake. They make tasty fish curry and have lunch while joking and laughing. A couple days later, Jyoti approaches Ram with a new request. She wants to go to a sermon on August 2nd with the whole family from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Ram says that he can't go, but if she wants to go with the children, he's completely okay with it. But the sermon can only be attended if you come with like everybody in your family. Anju and Anu join in on the conversation, but they shift it to the fact that he still hasn't bought that car. And Ram has had enough of the car requests and the taunting, so he changes subjects to Anju's nature camp. Anju, you took 2000 and went to a nature camp, right? Tell us all about it. It was very effective, Dad. We attended the nature camp in the morning and danced around the campfire at night. I even sang in front of the campfire. All of us enjoyed it a lot. We even took photos. That actually reminds me, one of the girls created a scene because some rich guy was clicking pictures of the girls on his mobile phone. The mom is immediately on alert. He didn't take your photo, right? He did. Why did you give him permission to do that? You should have refused. I didn't give him permission, Mom. He just took them without my permission. Do you not read the paper, Anju? Many girls are committing suicide because of such photos. Why would anyone commit suicide over these photos, Mom? We take photos for marriage alliances all the time. But those are normal cameras, Anju. The photos taken on mobile phones are very indecent. Anju laughs at her mom's reasoning. Mom, the photos taken from a mobile phone are the same ones that are taken from normal cameras. It's just that they alter the photos on a computer after, and that's when they become indecent. Say something, Dad. Look at her, thinking she's always right. Ram backs his daughters up, using it as a jab to point out that Jyoti failed her 10th grade, and Jyoti shoves it right back in Ram's face that he only passed the 4th grade. Later that day, Ram takes the contractor that he met at the restaurant and shows him his little shed. Like it's a shed that he owns outside of his immediate home property. He wants the contractor to renovate it because he can then rent it out for a little extra cash. The contractor agrees, and they're walking to the restaurant when Veerabhadram approaches them full of fire. He's pissed off because the contractor complained to his boss about him trying to get a bribe out of the contractor. Ram intervenes and Veerabhadram gets mad because Ram is putting his nose in places that it doesn't belong. The two grab each other's collars, the village members break up the fight, but as Veerabhadram walks away, he swears that one day will be his day. One day he will have all the power over Ram. The villagers try to talk Ram's anger down. I mean, at the end of the day, Veerabhadram is still a cop. But Ram stands tall. He's never done anything wrong and never will. So why should he be scared of the cops? Meanwhile, Anju and Anu are walking with a small bag of groceries, arguing as sisters do. But what the two of them don't notice is a bright yellow car following them. Anu runs off into the house after one last spat, and no sooner is she out of sight does the yellow car pull up and block Anju's way. The pighead who had been harassing the girls at the nature camp gets out of the car. Hi, Anju. Hi? Is this where you stay? What? Don't you recognize me? You're Varun, right? So you do remember me. Thanks. What are you doing here? He looks her up and down in the way that makes your skin crawl. I actually came for you. At her house, though, Jyoti is getting worried. Anu came back a while ago, but Anju has yet to come through the door. Jyoti goes out to the front yard to see if she can find Anju when Anu comes up behind her. Mom, the groceries are in our room. Jyoti rushes into the room, sees the bags on the bed, and immediately starts knocking on the bathroom door. Anju? Anju! Anju is in the bathroom, leaning against the wall, breathing hard. Her eyes are wide in fear. Her mom calls out one more time, so Anju has no choice but to respond. Her simple yes puts her mom at ease, but inside the bathroom it's getting harder and harder for Anju to breathe. Varun had showed her a video literally a few feet away from her house. It's a video he recorded using a secret camera he put in the girls' changing rooms at the nature camp. He shows it to Anju like it's the most entertaining film he's ever watched. When Anju looks at him in terror, he tells her to calm down. Don't worry, Anju. No one other than me has seen this. I'll delete it if you don't like it. Anju desperately nods her head, but you have to do as I say. He looks around to make sure that no one is around, and then he leans closer. I'll come to your backyard at 11 p.m., okay? You have to come, okay? I can't come. I won't come, Vern, please. She's got tears rolling down her eyes at this point. Oh my God, why are you crying, Anju? I haven't come here to create a problem for you. If I wanted to do that, I would have just posted this on the internet. But I won't do that because I like you. So, tonight. Anju starts begging. She doesn't want to come tonight, but Vern is a freaking piece of trash. Okay, it's not my responsibility. If your family has a problem because this video goes viral on the internet, if you tell your parents about this or refuse to come tonight, hey, don't worry. You won't do that, will you? He then gets into his car and drives away, leaving Anju shattered. As night falls, the sky gets cloudy. There's thunder booming outside as Jyoti makes her way into the kids' room, only to find Anju in bed and the glass of milk she'd left for her untouched. Anju says that she just has a headache and just wants to get some sleep. And like almost every Indian mom that I know, Jyoti starts lecturing her, saying that it's all because she's listening to music all the damn time and it's too loud. But eventually Jyoti calms down and instead she starts getting worried. Do you want some medicine? No, Mom, I really just want to rest. Okay, it's getting really late though. Why don't you eat dinner and then go to sleep? Anju's eyes widen as she gets up to look at the clock. It's 10:05. Only 55 minutes until her life is ruined. Ram is meanwhile back in his office watching another movie, completely unaware of his daughter's life falling apart. At exactly 11 p.m., Varun is sneaking his filthy little feet up the stairs to Anju's backyard. It's raining heavily at this point, but there Anju is, standing in the shed in her backyard. His stupid face lights up as he makes his way into the shed and shuts the door behind him. He creeps closer and closer, and Anju keeps backing away, but just as he's got her cornered, the lights in the shed turn on. Jyoti stands there as Varun turns to look at her. Anju told her mom. Varun gets absolutely livid. You told your mom? You don't understand how big of a mistake you've made. You've cheated me. He turns around to head outside, but Jyoti stands in his way with tears in her eyes. Please don't do this to my daughter. We're an average middle-class family. You probably have a mother or a sister, right? Please don't do this. I'm not ruining your daughter's life. You are. He pulls out the video and shows it to Jyoti. Anju shuts her eyes really tight because she can't meet her mom's eyes. Jyoti is distraught because her worst fears are coming to life. But forkin' Varun doesn't give a shit. Because you got involved between the two of us, I'm going to upload this clip onto the internet. Jyoti starts pleading and Varun, he relents. Okay, fine. I won't release it. But in return, I want your daughter to stay with me for 1 hour. Jyoti's eyes turn red, her tears stop. I won't let that happen, even if I have to die. She grabs his phone that he's holding in his hand. Anju rushes over to help her mom, but Varun is unfortunately a lot stronger than he looks. He looks like a toothpick, but I guess he has some muscles because he holds onto his phone with a death grip in one hand and then uses his other hand to push Jyoti in one direction and Anju in the other. Jyoti quickly recovers, but realizing that she can't get the phone anymore, she kneels and she begs instead. Toothpick Varun smiles as he holds Jyoti's shoulders and guides her to stand up. Okay, I won't ruin Anju's life. I'll delete the video. But instead, why don't you fulfill my wish instead? Unbelievable bastard. Jyoti's eyes go wide and Anju gets up off the ground. The next morning, Ram walks into his house to find it all dirty. Someone has been stepping in mud and then walking all around their house without washing their feet. Concerned, Ram makes his way into the kid's bedroom while calling out for his wife. Jyoti, Anju, and Anu are all sitting on top of the bed. The two kids are laying on their mom's shoulders while Jyoti is staring blankly at the wall in front of her. When they hear Ram's voice, the kids get off the bed and rush to their dad. They're both hysterical, and Ram's anxiety grows even more when he sees his wife bawling. Last night, when Varun started preying on Jyoti, Anju felt an overwhelming sensation of rage. She grabbed a thick wooden rod, came up behind Varun, and swung. She hit him right on the head and watched as his body fell to the ground. When the phone fell to the ground as well, Anju lifted her rod once more to smash the stupid little thing to pieces. While Anju is crushing the phone, Jyoti goes to try to wake up Varun, but his limp noodle-like body doesn't move. She puts her fingers underneath his nose, but there's no air going in or coming out. Jyoti calls out to Anju to get her attention, and Anju too is shocked when she realizes that Varun is no longer breathing. Thinking fast, she rushes out of the shed back into their house and tries to call her dad, but on top of the already poor signal connections in this village, it's raining heavily tonight, so there's no connection. The two of them are starting to freak out, and all the noise causes Anu to wake up. Just as Anu is leaving the bedroom, Jyoti and Anju go back to the shed. They shove Varun's body into a sack, but as they're doing this, Anju notices Anu looking at them from inside the house. Jyoti, not wanting Anu to see any of this, shuts the door to the shed. They finish tying up the sack, and then they drag it across the backyard into the composting hole that Ram had been digging. Unbeknownst to them, Anu has shifted her position in the house and watches them as they dump the sack into the ditch and start shoveling dirt to fill up the hole.